Welcome to another Indie Dev Showcase video here on the channel. Each week, we play indie games on our Wednesday night streams, and these videos are the recaps of it. Unless otherwise stated, these games were played with press keys, and we are always looking for new games to spotlight and examine. So we are beginning with a game that this was actually a demo, and that is Haiki. Haiki is set up as kind of like a Super Meat Boy style precision platformer. Your character can move, jump, you have like a kindly little double jump as well. And your main kind of mechanic in this game is about color. As you can see in the upper right, you have a color wheel that will allow you to swap the background. And essentially whatever color is on doesn't exist, while the other two colors do. So it's that ever popular balance of having to constantly swap colors while doing precision platforming and hopefully not getting killed in the process. And as you can see, it can be very tricky to do. Now, the platforming itself, the general control scheme felt good, but the additional layer of the color swapping, I think adds a layer of complexity that's going to hurt this game. This isn't the same kind of like zen feel that you get from playing something like Super Meat Boy, that you can just kind of focus entirely on the platforming, because you can't, as you need to be constantly swapping these colors. And I think I would rather have preferred just having a button correspond to a color, instead of just having to swap through with left button and right button. Because in the heat of the moment, it's very hard to quickly remember, okay, what button do I need to push so that I can get the right color so I don't kill myself? So this could be a tough sale for certain fans of platformers. But if you're looking for another Super Meat Boy-esque game to play and don't mind dealing with colors, then I would say check this one out when it is released. Now we turn to Hero Syndrome. And this was submitted by a developer. I think this was a pre-early access build and may not represent the current version of this game. But the simple concept is, imagine Portal, but instead of dealing with Portal-related transportation puzzles, we're dealing with Fortnite construction. And it's a very interesting concept of a game. There's a story going on with us trying to solve the mystery of a missing, I think, scientist. And there's a lot of drama going on behind the scenes of our character here. But the main gameplay is that we are moving around these areas trying to get from point A to point B, while of course finding bonus resources and hidden collectibles. At any time, we can construct or deconstruct various objects that will allow us to move around the world easier, or avoid certain obstacles. Eventually the game will unlock guns, and you will have to fight enemies. And it's a very interesting idea of taking like that kind of Fortnite building design and making it more of a puzzle or more of a tactical focused game. And if you are a fan of Fortnite, I think Hero Syndrome will probably work better for you than if you are a fan of Portal. Now, with that said, we did have a few issues with the game. Some of the controls did feel a little bit clunky, and the guns kind of lack any, real sense of, I think, gunplay to how they behave. And the game's overall focus on puzzle solving may be a different kind of track for people approaching this more from the Fortnite angle. But I will say, as somebody who was not a fan of Fortnite's design, Hero Syndrome was working for me, and I am curious to see where they're going to go with it. So if you're looking for more of a story-driven take on that kind of design, I would say pay attention to this one when it is released. Moving on, we turn to Alchemist Adventure. And this game was in early access when we got a press key for it, and I believe it still is now. And this is a very intriguing kind of action, open world style game. The story is that we are an alchemist stuck in a strange land, and in order to figure out what happened to our family and survive, we're going to need to craft our weapons and gear that we need to deal with the various enemies and complete quests. So a major part of this game is the potion creation. as you'll create your potions out of an element and then various other properties, which in turn will affect how that behaves. So by applying different things, you can make your weapon or your potion do more damage. It could have a longer cooldown, it could cost more resources. And I really like these kinds of systems and being able to customize the various options. As you get further into the game, you will unlock crafting elements or upgrades that will allow you to have more health, store more resources, and do more in the world itself. And the game is clearly set up for that kind of Metroidvania style progression, that finding a new element will open up your tools, will let you get further into the world, and let you get into newer areas, or return to other areas and find more resources. My big concern with the game from what we played it is that the basic moment-to-moment gameplay is on the repetitive side. And you're going to have to just be constantly just flinging potions at enemies to try and whittle them down. The game also makes use of a checkpoint system, and progress is only saved at those points. Now, we were playing this on a higher difficulty, which obviously could have impacted how easy it was to fight and survive. But with all that said, there is something very compelling about Alchemist Adventure. And I really did like this idea of being able to create your own tools and then have just a greater ability to manipulate them. So just making your fire potion be a little bit more costly, but let's say it causes more of a damage over time, or more of an initial damage. And if you are a fan of games like that allow for more of a customization, then definitely give this one a check. It is still in early access at the time of this recording, but I believe it is almost done. With that, we're going to take our quick break, and when we come back, we have 3 more games to check out for this week's Indie Spotlight. And now for a quick thank you to our current Game Wisdom supporters and sponsors. And if you'd like to continue this discussion on game design, be sure to check out our Discord channel, linked down below. Now available at most retailers are my current books on design. 20 Essential Games to Study is an intro-level look at 20 unique games to provide inspiration for any developer looking to get into the game industry. And the Game Design Deep Dive series each go into a top-to-bottom look at the design of a specific genre, with platformers and roguelikes now available, and horror coming in the near future. For our next game, we turn to Drake Hollow. If our other game, Hero Syndrome, was Fortnite meets Portal, we now turn to essentially, I guess, Fortnite meets Viva Pinata in a very weird way. The story is that we have been transported to this magical world in order to help these lovely little creatures called Drakes. And our mission is to build them a suitable habitat, find resources that we need to build and maintain, and figure out why something has gone horribly wrong and there's evil monsters all around. All with kind of like a teen or childlike aesthetic to it. So, this one, when we played this was when it was first released. I believe that was late September, early October. And the game has received major updates to its system since then, which unfortunately I cannot comment on how much they've improved or changed the game since. But the general concept is that the world is procedurally generated and built on these kinds of islands, where the islands themselves have goods that you need and can be connected to each other using devices that you can build or craft. And you have to explore each area in order to get the tools and the various things that you need in order to expand your base, or find things you can give to your drakes in order to age them up. And your quote-unquote settlement level is based on essentially the sum age of all the drakes that you have. And that determines what you can build and upgrade going forward. Now, your weapons and gear do have durability to them. And I don't know if that is still in the current version of Drake Hollow. Combat was on the floaty side. I don't believe there was a lock-on, or if there was, it was very basic. And you're one of those situations where you're going to start smacking an enemy, and they're going to be just slightly out of your range, and you won't be able to do anything about it. And the general moving around at the start was a little bit on the frustrating side. In order to move from island to island chain, you had to use what's called an Aether Ward that gives you, I think it was like 20-30 seconds of invulnerability. Otherwise, the kind of toxic ocean will kill your character. Now, with that said though, this is still kept very much PG, so don't expect to find, bloody remains or anything like that in Drake Hollow. Now, besides the procedurally generated areas and, finding these cute little drakes around, the other aspect of this game is that it can be played multiplayer and co-op. And I think that is where this game would certainly shine, as the space itself is very wide, and there's just a lot of just wandering from point A to point B in it. And having other people around to provide support and do more exploration helps this game out tremendously. Now, with that said, another issue that I have with the settlement design is that it felt a lot like busy work. Each drake requires food, water, and entertainment, and you'll need to collect resources and build things that produce them accordingly. And as your camp levels up, they're going to require or demand more things to stay happy. And then they provide you with charms, which are used as part of the game's currency that allows you to buy more goods and make things easier along those lines. Once you've completed all the objectives on a map, you unlock the next area, which in turn means bigger and badder enemies, larger settlements, and you get the picture. Now, since this version of the game that we've played, developers have done more in terms of persistent elements, and allowing your characters to upgrade and keep permanent stats, as opposed to just getting new cosmetic options. Which again, unfortunately, I don't have first-hand knowledge on how well that's been. But Drake Hollow is one of those games that I find very intriguing. It hits a lot of different aspects with the base building, combat, and kind of, growing your settlement kind of design. And it's one of those games that I feel that it probably won't work for a lot of people, especially if you don't like kind of like the Fortnite-y aesthetic and management or just breaking stuff like this. But if you have friends to play with and the game hooks you, then I think this could be a great one to test. And again, if you like helping out cute little critters, then that's certainly a bonus here. For our next game, we turn to Code Arcturus. I think I said that right. And this is a game that's trying to have its cake and eat it too. This is a 2D side-scroller arcade shooter with roguelite elements of persistence. So our story is that we are exploring these areas trying to save, the space station from aliens and robots and things that just go pew-pew at us. So the general flow is that each level is handmade, and you're going to try and get to the exit while collecting these various coins, and you can see that in the upper right-hand corner of the screen. There's going to be keys, platforming challenges, and all that other great stuff that you've come to expect. Now, the twist of this game is that there's multiple ways of playing it. There's like a hardcore setting, time travel, campaign, you get the picture. But here's where things unfortunately don't quite work right. Whenever you finish a level, you collect the various MacGuffins and resources that you get, and they are applied to persistent upgrades. But the catch is that your basic character is just not really set up for the challenges the game throws at you. Whether it's because things are coming at you from off screen, till some of the jumps are performed, some areas in each level literally cannot be accessed until you unlock the double jump. And unfortunately, this isn't a case of you getting those powers through play, or just through progress. You have to grind levels to get the necessary resources in order to unlock those abilities. And unfortunately, I feel Code Arcturus misses the point of this kind of persistence. That it's meant to make things better or make things kind of more grander. It shouldn't be there to fix issues with your character at the start of the game. And unfortunately, with how you're kind of left at the beginning, I don't know too many people who are going to want to put into the effort of grinding these levels to reach a point of competency with their character. And unfortunately, I had to give this one a thumbs down because of it. For our final game of this video, we turn to The Struggle of Combat. This is a game that I believe it's still in early access on itch. We played this a few months ago, and I don't know if there's been any major updates since to it. But this is a kind of twin-stick shooter, side-scroller action roguelike style game. A prison full of the worst criminals in this world has suffered an accident, and bad guys have broken out. And it's up to us to explore the land and recapture them. So the game features light persistence in terms of unlocking new characters that can show up or that you can choose at the start. Each character begins with different stats, weapons, and kind of a special ability. This character over here has a lasso that they can use to stun enemies with. Now, as you play through the game, drops are randomized. And how it works is you have the different weapons, guns, pistols, shotguns, my crossbow up there, and then they are broken down further by level. Higher the level, the better the weapon is. And you'll find better weapons as you play further into each level. Now, at the time when we were playing this, there are only 3 zones available, and we got fairly far in it. The general gameplay is very smooth and responsive. Again, this is just pure old twin-stick shooting, so move with one side, aim and shoot with the other. You'll find additional weapons as well as perks, and you can also buy more options at shops that usually show up at the end of each area. And the game, for the gameplay loop that we have here, is good. My main issues I had, one, I don't think the aesthetics and the art are catching or visibly distinctive enough to pull somebody in. And the gameplay, again, this is a what you see is what you get kind of affair. If you're hoping for greater complexity or different gameplay systems, you're not going to find it here. And with so many action roguelikes on the market today, I think the struggle of combat may just fall by the wayside for a lot of people. And I think ultimately, I like this game, but I don't feel like there's enough here to make it, I think, market friendly or something that will interest people who haven't already played any of the other numerous action roguelikes that have been released. So if you like what you see here and want to support a smaller developer, I would say check this one out. As always, you'll find links to all the games we covered in the notes or the description down below. With that said, we're going to wrap up this week's Indie Spotlight here. Thank you so much for tuning in. That was also a really great moment right there of me getting knocked around. As always, be sure to check out our Discord and Patreon link down below. If you'd like to submit a game for me to look at on a future stream and video, please get in touch. And if you have an indie or a store page on itch, Steam, or whatever that you would like us to review and provide tips on our weekly show, Indie Inquiries, you can also reach out for that as well. Come back for daily discussions on game design here and on game wisdom, where we examine the art and science of games. Until next time, take care.